Hello, welcome back to Teen Story Share. This week we're continuing Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Puranik. This time we're reading chapter 4, and it is our last chapter of this book. If you missed chapters 1 through 3, those will be linked down below. Chapter 4, The House Under the Rowan Tree. Inside, the Leshy's manor smells of mildew and desolation. The entry doors utter a rasping lament as they close behind Liska, and she narrowly avoids walking through a cobweb as she steps into the foyer. The Leszy does not wait. He brushes past her and stalks into the manor, leaving Liska alone to gather her bearings. His cryptic warning, however, lingers. Assuming you survive that long. Best not to think about that now. It is too late to turn back. A coat rack occupies the narrow foyer, white with dust and hung with mismatched paraphernalia, an archaic cloak, a thick coat for winter wear, and a worn woolen scarf. Liska hesitates before taking off her shawl and hanging it on the rack. The simple act makes her situation feel more tangible somehow. Yes, she lives here now, and she hangs her outerwear beside that of a skull-headed monster. She removes her boots too, although she finds no slippers with which to replace them. Her teeth chatter as she pads across the cold hardwood to follow the Leszy. Even veiled in cobwebs and dust, the manor clings to a former magnificence, like an old woman recalling the vigorous days of her youth. It is also obviously enchanted. Liska has never known well what the word means, but she does now. She knows it because as she walks by ornate sconces, they flicker to life, illuminating her passage with sudden flame, then puffing out once she leaves them behind. The entry hall is draughty and narrow, with a stairwell of oily wood coiling up to an overlooking gallery. High above, a chandelier throws sputtering light, iron arms shaped like branches and tipped with candles wrapped in hammered metal leaves. It illuminates a vaulted ceiling, painted with roaring elk and towering trees, gilded accents dulled by cobwebs. Despite the light, the corners of the room remain dark, and every shadow flickers erratically. The Leszy waits on the stairwell, gazing down at Liska. His pallid appearance contrasts starkly against the dark of the manor, making him all the more wraith-like. There is something unnervingly inhuman about his posture. Back rigid and head cocked, his arms at his sides. "Welcome to the house under the rowan tree," he says. His voice echoes through the abandoned halls, drawing out each syllable in a timorous refrain. "Go where you wish, but do not set foot in the topmost tower room. I expect breakfast at 8 in the morning, and dinner at 5 in the evening. Leave them at the tower room door." He pauses, and there is a certain awkwardness to it, as if he is unsure what to do with Liska now that he has her. "That is all," he says finally. "Good night." He turns, his long-legged strides up the stairs accentuated by groans and creaks of aged wood, the sound fading as he reaches the landing and vanishes out of sight. Alone in the silent hall, Liska feels a shiver creep down her spine. The manor is unsettling and decrepit, with its peeling wallpaper and rusting metal. Looking around, she knows there is much work awaiting her, enough to make a seasoned Orlican housewife tear at her hair. "Tomorrow," she decides. "I will worry about it tomorrow." The last word morphs into a tired yawn. She is exhausted, both from her maddened run through the wood and the relentless pulse of fear in her chest. Sleeping in the house of a demon is less than appealing, but her bleary vision and heavy eyelids are impossible to deny. She tiptoes carefully to an adjacent room and peers in. The space is dark, but she can make out the shadows of a gaping hearth and worn settees set around a low table. It looks to be a small parlor. She steals a cloak from the foyer and shakes off an unhappy spider, then unlaces her gorset and takes off her skirt, leaving herself in a blouse and petticoat. She picks stray leaves out of her hair and a thorn out of her finger before curling up on a settee and pulling the cloak over her shoulders. Her body aches and her mind is reeling, but fatigue reigns above all else. Tomorrow will bring sunlight and a new day. Surely the Dryada will not be so frightening then. The thought calms her somewhat, and she drifts slowly to sleep. Drip, drip, drip. Her eyes snap open at the sound. Something is watching from the shadows. A monstrous something, half corpse and half hound, huge and gangly, with fur black as pitch. Its eyes are glowing embers. The flesh around its chest and mouth has rotted away, revealing slashes of pearly ribs and yellowed canines, dripping saliva onto the floor. Drip, drip. Liska jolts upright, heart pounding. The hound is gone. She does not close her eyes again until light begins to creep in through the filthy window. Only then, to the distant chatter of waking birds, does she fall asleep once more. Liska wakes to a room bathed in the buttery gold of early morning. For a short, groggy moment, she thinks herself home in Stodoła, before feeling the branch fetter around her wrist and a prickly burr clinging to her blouse. She sits up sluggishly, peeling the burr away as memories come rushing back. The Driada, the Rusalka, her bargain with the Leszy, and finally, the red-eyed hound. The hound! She looks around in alarm, half expecting it to be standing behind her. But no, she is alone. And, according to the grandfather clock by the wall, late to making breakfast. The thought of displeasing the Leszy is enough to send her leaping to her feet. She pushes aside curtains of white lace and wrestles open the window, letting in moist air smelling of wet earth and leaves. Beyond, the Driada's trees are rich and verdant, dressed in moss and trimmed with lichen. Sundapples scatter across the abandoned garden and into the room, warming Liska's face as she redoes her disheveled braids and puts on the rest of her stroj. She tries to ignore the clench of her chest as she looks over the torn embroidery. Her Sunday clothes, ruined. She wanders out of the parlor and into the dimly lit hall, craning her neck to take in everything she could not see in the dark of night. She has never been in a manor before, and has only seen a mere handful from the back of a cart during trips to the Gwiazdno market. The biggest house she has ever entered belonged to the Voit, the governor of Stodoła. He had called upon Liska, knowing her reputation with animals, when his prize stallion had developed a horrid cough. It had not taken her much to help the stallion, merely wetting his hay and letting him out of his dusty stall to pasture. Still, the Voit had been grateful enough to invite Liska and Mama for dinner, and Liska had seen inside his sturdy house with its shingled roof and 3 large, sunny rooms. The house under the rowan tree is a fortress compared to that place. Everywhere Liska looks are intricate carvings and ornate vases and proud, arching windows. Despite the thick coat of dirt and cobwebs, everything is grand and impressive and utterly overwhelming. It does not help that the house under the rowan tree obstinately refuses to be ordinary. The first thing Liska notices are the paintings. Instead of the usual ancestors or saints, they depict beady-eyed animals in dark woodlands, prowling through thickets of cloistering thorns. Eyeing them, Liska runs her hand over a banister, sending up a cloud of dust and leaving her fingertips soft with grime. Even the dust is strange in the manner. Instead of billowing up and settling again, it rises in spirals and whirls, brushing against Liska like an over-affectionate cat. It trails after her, twining around her ankles, until she looks at it directly and says, "Please not now. I'm nervous enough already, and you're getting all over my clothes." Like a child scorned, the dust settles once more, and Liska wonders if she has already lost her mind. When she discovers the bathroom at last, it is by far the least filthy place in the manor. She is also stunned to see it has plumbing, something she has heard of but not seen. Pipes and spouts sticking out over the marble sink and lion-footed bathtub. Unlike what she has heard, the pipes are not copper. Instead, they are coarse with bark, as if made from hollowed-out tree roots. And perhaps they are. At this point, nothing would surprise her. Tree root pipes or not, Liska is eager to try them out. A turn of the tap sends out a cascade of pleasantly cool water, and she uses it to scrub the grime and dirt off her face, along with the crusted blood from a wound where a branch slapped her. There is a mirror above the sink, framed in iron branches, and Liska spends a minute staring into it, face dripping. She feels changed, yet she does not look it. She is still the same plain, unassuming girl, with the upturned nose and dark hair, features she inherited from Tata. Her eyes, meanwhile, are blue like Mama's, but while Mama's are all frost, Liska's have always been softer, like periwinkles. Tata used to say. She has done a poor job with her hair, and a thick curl snakes out from beneath her kerchief. This one is white, part of a grayed streak that begins at Liska's temple. It appeared after the incident with Shenika. Incident. It seems too kind, too mild a word for what Liska has done. Her breath stutters, and for a heartbeat she can see it all again. Shenika, mouth open in a scream, crumpling to the ground. No! She speaks the word aloud, clenching her hands on either side of the sink. The cool of the marble seeps into her, grounding her until she can breathe normally again. Hastily, she tucks the white curl back under the kerchief and rushes from the bathroom. The kitchen, thankfully, is not hard to find. It is a simple, utilitarian room with wood-paneled walls, an abundance of shelves, and a vast, tiled stove, housing an oven and a compartment for firewood. Dust motes hang thick in the air, turning the room hazy and dreamlike. Further exploring yields a larder with a meager supply of flour, 1 bottle of milk, and a bowl heaped with eggs. Liska makes a mental note to go looking for a cellar later. For now, she can work with what she has. Anyway, how hard can it be to please a demon? She makes the cherki dough by mixing the flour with an egg and tears it into small pieces while the milk heats on the stove. She is sliding the zacherki into the boiling milk when it occurs to her that she has seen no chickens at the manor, and certainly no cow. Could it be that the Leszy crosses into the human world? That would certainly be a sight to behold. She scoops her hasty breakfast into porcelain bowls, finds a tray, sets it with a bowl and a spoon, and sighs. Despite her best efforts to ignore it, dread has built up in her gut like cream over day-old milk. This is no different than life in the village, she reasons. She simply must keep her head down and stay out of trouble, and she will be free. In a year. Before leaving the room, she casts a mournful look at the stove, missing the companionship of her family's shut. Usually, the house spirit would be sitting on a shelf or watching from the shadows, silent. But there were times he would join her, a tiny man with a beard full of soot and eyes black as coals, and help with the chores. Mama could never see him, and when Liska tried to point him out, she would squeeze Liska's hand painfully and say, "There is nothing there. You understand?" At first, Liska did not, but she learned. Inside the manor tower, the walls are stone and cold. The stairs are rustic, in a style far older than the rest of the manor. There is a window at the top, unglazed, and it looks out onto the sprawl of a tall rowan tree, crowned with flowers white as midwinter, and a scattering of early berries. At the top of the stairs waits a single wooden door. Liska places the tray in front of it and knocks. When there is no answer, she cups her hands over her mouth and calls, "Leszy?" Nothing. She tries again. Panie Leszy." Silence. Tentatively, she retreats. She is halfway down the stairs when she hears the door creak open and the scrape of the tray being picked up. It is past noon when Liska rolls up her sleeves and sets to work. There is much of it, an overwhelming amount, but she is determined to bring order back into the chaos. She's never been a particularly clean person before. If she had a coin for every time Mama chastised her for tracking mud into the kitchen or staining her clothing, she would be rich indeed. But there is something about the manor that makes her pity it. It is like an old hunting dog, once its master's pride, now forgotten and discarded. Liska immediately wants to help it, wants to nurture it back to health and see light return to its forgotten halls. She begins with reconnaissance. She walks the perimeter of the estate as far as she dares, keeping a wary eye on the forest beyond the wall. She brings a kitchen knife with her just in case, though she doubts it will do her any good should she encounter a demon, or worse, the red-eyed hound. Like everything else, the back of the manor is ensnared by weeds and encroaching woodland. There, Liska finds a crumbling well and the door to a cellar. Both are tucked away, overgrown with moss and ivy, with only a path of crushed undergrowth to indicate that the Leszy makes use of them. Blessedly, the cellar is better stocked than the kitchen, with a few slabs of salted meat, along with potatoes, beets, and grains. The sight makes Liska's mouth water. In border villages like hers, meat is expensive, eaten only on holidays or weekends by wealthier families. Once she has taken stock, Liska begins her second task. There were no herbs or seasonings in the kitchen, but there are many growing outside that she recognizes. Yellow flowering dill, wild garlic, horseradish, mint, and thyme with its purple blooms. She gathers them all up in the folds of her skirt and brings them back to the kitchen, before coming out with a pail for well water. That is how her afternoon passes, trying to turn the empty shell that is the manor into the shadow of something lived in. She mixes flour and water for leaven, boils a slab of salted meat for rousseau, and takes down and scrubs the pots and pans. Her tasks completed, she rubs her forehead with a flour-coated sleeve and turns to survey the kitchen. That is when she notices the room has changed. On the wall by the stove is a wooden bolt, affixed with hooks for hanging pots and pans. At least it was there the last time Liska looked. Now it is gone. In its place is a door. It is a heavy door, stately, painted like a midnight sky in indigo and star specks of gold. The knob is in the shape of a starburst, and light beams in from the crack beneath, as though the sun is trapped on the other side. Liska freezes. In the same moment, footsteps echo in the hall. Startled, she glances toward the noise, then back to the door. But there is no door. The pots and pans have returned as if they never vanished. What? Liska does not get the chance to ponder it, because a shadow fills the doorway. Then the Leszy is standing there, all antlers and horror, looking even more ghastly in the day than he did on the midnight of midsummer. All right, if you want to know what happens next, you can check this book out at the library in the teen room. Hope you've enjoyed the story, and join us again next Friday for a brand new story. Have a great weekend. Bye!